Well, good afternoon in Mountain Standard Time and high noon in Pacific Standard Time. My English name is Theda NewBreast, and Nistu Nidaniko Makoyo Sokoi is my Blackfoot name. We welcome you to the 74th Native Wellness Bowl. We have one every day. Our sponsors will be in the chat room. We'd like to welcome you. We have an exciting show for this hour. We're hoping that you've seen the last 2 power hours where we got to listen to all of our Native men talk about how they stay well and their reaction to not only the pandemic fatigue, but also the racial balancing fatigue that we're experiencing in our country. So today is a special show. We've got a Native women's panel, and we're just going to share some things with you so that you can begin to look at how do you stay well, how do you proactively, productively begin to look at our wellness, our family's wellness, our work wellness in the workplace being all virtual now, and how do we look at the wellness that we bring to our tribes and our country, and other Native women. How are other Native women staying balanced? And so we have Anita with Sovereign Bodies Institute, and we also have Patricia from the state of Washington, and then we also have Lori NewBreast. And so the 4 of us will start with some introductions. So I'll pass it to Lori. Lori, you want to do your introduction?
Okay, I come to you from the Blackfeet Res. You know, we're still holding it down. We still have the tight COVID-19s. That's kind of like, you know, the tight Wranglers that fit you before the pandemic. So we still have them cinched tight. And I just want to say that, you know, I'm really happy to be here on the Native Wellness Power Hour. And I would just, sometimes I feel like I need a costume, like a Power Ranger costume, you know, but anyway, so love to all of you. I'm looking forward to a good show. We have 2 dynamic ladies, and you know, it's the pandemic, but don't panic. So we'll be going on, but I have 2 great guests. So see ya, talk to you, and you can watch me on this. I'll try not to make faces jokes. All right, love y'all.
Well, thank you, Lori. So Anita, you want to do an introduction for our audience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Anita Lucchese. I'm director of Sovereign Bodies Institute. Theda is one of our board members. And Sovereign Bodies Institute is a nonprofit research center focused on gender and sexual violence against Indigenous peoples. So I'm joining today to talk about women's wellness and self-care in that role, but also as a survivor of violence myself, who's kind of had to be on a lengthy healing journey too. So thanks for having me join.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much for being with us. Patricia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So my name is Patricia Flores. Spanish is my first language. I am the advocacy coordinator for the Washington Coalition of Sexual Assault Programs. And so as a state coalition, I travel throughout the state, not currently, not for a while now, but to work with the different agencies that provide services to sexual assault survivors and their loved ones. And my parents are Conrado and Manuela Flores. My maternal grandmother, Hipólita Rocha, is, I'm a descendant through her of the Raramuri Tarahumara tribe, which is south in Mexico, and immigrant family to the US, to Washington State, and stayed on in Toppenish, and that's where we were born, which is the Yakima Reservation. And a rich, rich, wonderful heritage. So that's me.
Thank you, Patricia.
Mhm.
So I'd just like to ask everyone out there, just to get in the best place you can right now. If you a comfortable place, if you're in your office, if you're at home, if your home is your new office, however, whatever, get something, cup of coffee, get light a smudge. And it's okay if your cat or your dog is sitting on your lap, just whatever you need to feel okay with yourself. I think I'd like to just start with a story, and then I'll open it up to our guests. I was sharing with Jolene before we got on 15 years ago in San Jose, California. We were doing a Gona with a lot of the San Francisco Bay Area, and we had lost one of our elders. And he at his funeral, it was kind of like a more of a celebration of life. They didn't call it funeral. They brought in this Mayan man, and they have this Mayan man was like a holy man, and he had that presence, like when the energy changed when he walked into the room. And I just remember his hair had never been cut in his life. His hair was like down below, went down his back, and it was like down to below his knees. And he was going to say the eulogy, and and he had never met the man that had just perished. And he said the eulogy, and people were crying, and they couldn't believe that he knew this man in that way. And what he explained was that in the Mayan calendar, there's one of the Mayan calendars, it determines by what month you're born and what year. And he knew this man because he had lived his destiny. And it was just a very amazing process. And I'm sharing this story because at another time in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of prophecy that was told to a lot of indigenous people when you're going through change. And we're going through another transformation right now. And one of the prophecies that was talked about was when the condor meets the eagle, and that the condor being from the south continents, and then us up where the eagle is, that this would be a time when we would embrace and we would bring healing to the earth. And so I just wanted to start with that before we invite Patricia to share with us, because as women, all us four and all of the women that are out there that are part of our Native Wellness Institute gatherings, that we always sit in circles. I think right now we're broadening our circle with alliances to all brown and to all darker skinned people. There's an alliance, but we're also keeping our heart open to all human beings. And so I just wanted to say that much. And, because I really, this time in my life, I'm really trying to remember what my mentors taught me when I was younger, and then I need to pay attention to the prophecies. So Patricia, would like to invite you to share with us, how do you work with your own wellness? How do you work, the women that you worked with in all these decades, how do they work on their wellness when there's big challenges like this? So
Yes.
Please take the floor.
Thank you, Theda, and thank you, NWI, for having me as a guest on this panel. And I just want to make sure that I say I'm honored and humbled to be on the First Peoples land, which is Coast Salish and Duwamish here in Seattle. That's where I'm coming in from on this virtual gathering. So really it's going back to the wellness begins with being connected with our hearts and ourselves. And how do we do that? It's by having time alone and listening um, intensely with our hearts. Yeah, we have these physical ears, but really listen with our hearts and our whole being, because the creator of all things is communicating with us through Mother Earth, through the sun, through the moon, through everything. Those communications are coming in. And so the wellness begins there. And so that could be kind of far-fetched for someone who wasn't raised with that. And I was raised, I have two mothers, my grandmother Hippolyta, who is Raramuri, who her language was her indigenous language. She spoke that. So her second language was Spanish. Here I am, a couple generations later, my first language is Spanish and my second language is English, you know, the conquerors' languages, Spain and European. And so getting connected with that, our ancestors, not just nature and everything that creator has created, which includes our ancestors, not just, but including our ancestors. Listening for that. And someone might say, well, what does it mean to listen for that? And it's not words, it's concepts, it's meanings from the beginning of time, right? From the beginning of time. And that can come through. And it's a practice. It's a practice. And so that's what happens when I put myself first and take care of Patricia. And that's all I can do. And so I'm in my 6th decade. I was able, you know, I'm 62. I was able to meet trainers from NWI, which include Theda, last September in Hawaii, participating in a training that our work sent 2 of us to. And that was huge. That was huge. But the journey every decade, you know, it becomes richer and more intense because I'm listening. And so I can speak to others on self-care and wellness from my experiences. I've had very, very challenging, painful life experiences. I have 3 adult kids, lots of grandkids, and I'm going to have my 2nd grandchild in August. My kids and I have had really traumatic experiences, but here we are, standing tall, and we've gone into that pain and come out stronger. And it hasn't been, you know, a bed of roses. It wasn't easy, but who we became on the other side of it, that's what you're seeing today. And that makes, you know, that makes my voice start breaking. And because it's really humbling. It's really humbling. I could have stayed in my addictions and in my pain and keep causing harm. It takes a lot to walk away from that because the shame keeps us there. The shame and the guilt. It's heavy. It's heavy. We've got to put it down because we were made for more than that. And that's what our ancestors and creator are communicating with us.
Thank you, Patricia. And thank you for, you know, sharing six decades. Whoa. Thank you, sister. You know, and I'll just say, you know, out there, you know, those of you joining us, you know, those are things to be celebrated. 6 decades, 7 decades, because a lot of Indian country average life expectancy is around 50-ish, and so we're up in it. We're gonna live a long time. So
Yeah.
Anita, how do you take care of yourself and the women that you're working with? What can you share with our audience?
Oh gosh, I'm still learning daily. You know, I have I'm ending my second decade, so I still have a lot to learn and experience. But I think for me, one thing that's been helpful is to understand that healing is a practice, not a destination. And I was talking to a sister of mine a couple days ago about this because we both had attended an event. Both of us, work in anti-violence type work and help others all the time, but both of us are also survivors. And so we had attended this event that was talking about some heavy stuff, with regards to violence against Native people. And she messaged me afterward and said, I think I need to talk to you about this. And it was really nice. This was somebody I knew for years, and yet I never knew that story that she was ready to share with me that day. And as we were talking, she was saying, I feel like I've done so many years of healing and I've come so far in so many ways. I thought I was done. And now here's this, whole other box they still have to unpack. And it can be kind of frustrating. But I think that's kind of how the healing journey is. It's not just a matter of unpacking some of those boxes and letting go of the stuff that's weighing us down. It's also discovering like, wow, I have a whole other room of boxes I didn't know was there. So I think it's just a process of getting to know yourself and getting to know your heart and your spirit. For me too, I think especially during this time with the pandemic and all of the racial violence that's coming to light and occurring right now, I think it's important to be really gentle with yourself and gentle with the people around you, even when we don't agree. And that doesn't mean that we don't say our opinions or how we're feeling, because I think that's really important to do. But I had another experience just last night where a friend of mine posted something on Facebook with regards to the riots that I really strongly disagreed with. And it really disappointed me that they posted that. And I commented and I told that person, I'm disappointed in you right now. And we started kind of going back and forth at each other over it. And then at a certain point, it just occurred to me like, you know what, this is another Indigenous woman. She works hard for her community, not necessarily in the way that I would, but I want to support her. This isn't a constructive conversation. And I'm just going to say that and say that I'm going to pray for her and her health and safety and see how that goes. And she was very kind after that. It changed the whole dynamic of the conversation. And she agreed to pray for me too. So I thought that was a really neat moment to role model. Like, she was very triggered and in her space, and I was very triggered and in my space. And even though we were kind of butting heads for a minute, we were still able to come to a good place of like, I see you, I pray for you, I love you, and I wish you well on your healing journey. So that was a big learning moment, even just for me, on how to navigate all the stuff that's happening. Is we don't have to let the grief and the anger, I don't want to say bog us down, because we do have to make space to feel it and to honor it. But we don't have to let it trigger us in a way that just kind of forces us to spiral. This isn't a time to spiral. This is a time to seek out help. This is the time to have open, honest conversations and to reach out to people. Like Theda said, it's a time to build alliances and to seek out that comfort with each other. So that's kind of, for me as a survivor and somebody who works with survivors, it's what I'm trying to prioritize right now.
Oh, well, thank you, Anita. Lori, what do you think in this? I see all of us describing this transformation. We're actually in the middle of a transformation at this time. So, Lori, what do you think about talk about your self-care, or the women, all the women that you're involved with, are things, and those of you, Lori is my youngest sister. There's 5 of us, and so it's an honor, just an honor to have the sisterhood of my sisters and a real blood sister. So Lori, what are you thinking? You're on mute, Lori.
Okay, it was, the thing I think about right now is how you're when I see that people talk about like race, you could mean a foot race, right? You could also mean the human race. And then when they talk about like colors of people, I change colors throughout the year. I'm just coming out of my winter yellow, right? Because the sun is, but what I feel and think, because those two things are connected for me, is when I see people using the English language and talking about liberation theory and practice and the actions that are happening all over. For me, one of the things I do for my wellness is I figure, English is a tricky language. So I study or I look up word origins when I start seeing them pop up in the media, because they're trying to tell our story. So this comes from like a youth liberation movement in another part of the world. But the slogan was, nothing about us without us. And so really that's how I feel. That means me. That means me too. I'm not going to be silent. I don't care if I'm not sitting behind, a marker with CNN or whatever, those other big things, because as born in this biological body comes with the brain and intellectualism. And I've been thinking about a lot. Sometimes when I hear during this time, it was a thing I also heard. It's like, don't say that, oh, should I not put that post on? It's all this thing about fear of expression. And to me, I feel that that's a reminder that the way we honor ourselves, our ancestors, the people that were ripped from other continents and brought here by force, the way we honor those generations that enabled us to live today is we unmute ourselves. We tell our story. And nobody right now, because I haven't seen it given freely on the internet, a solution to the human condition 2020, today. I haven't seen that free streamed, on Wikipedia, but we're all part of that solution. So what I do, what I've started as my new practice during this time, prior to, George Floyd's death or murder, and I give those moments of silence, or I sing a song, I make up a song about when that sadness comes, or when I'm triggered about where, why I had to learn to defend myself physically, but also emotionally. And then I was thinking this morning about how sometimes I'd be the only Indian in the room. And sometimes I was, in my life experience, I've been the first Indian that they let in some rooms. And so what I learned about that for my own wellness, that I learned to honor those gifts that were given. It's not bragging. It's not saying you are the leader or, the queen or the king. But for me, I like to be the galactic wizard. I think that fits more with my personality. But really just thinking about how we use our whole body, that you become more connected when you heal from those things that were diverting you, and things that happened to you when you were children, when you had no say. I think last week I just had, and over the weekend, because it was so tough for so many people, when I knew about the little children at Little Earth, how many children were depending on all of those folks for safety. I'm reminded that you keep that little child you were, that inner child, you keep them safe during this time also. And that means, spiritually, emotionally. And the good thing about the internet or computers or technology is they got an off and on switch. And so you use that ability to control that input. You can put the brakes on when you're in a healing mode, or you know, something, a trigger. I'm sorry, I think of Roy Rogers' horse, just, you know, that's just how my mind works. So, but, you know, you start to say, what is my wisdom, regardless of how long you've been on earth? Because so I'm reminded of that saying that came out of youth liberation movement, nothing about us without us. And I think we're in that collective moment. And every time, you know, like something wrenches our heart, or for me, when I'm really touched, or something, I feel it on a soul level, I'm reminded that as a living generation, my responsibility is to move forward and to begin to mend all of those parts that we carry. You know, that we're the generation that you mourn people that nobody mourned. You know, we're the generation that, you know, takes care of the water in a spiritual way. We're the generation that we're living, so we must live. And I also feel that, you know, there's been a lot of beauty coming out of this. So I'm not Northwest Coast, as you can see, you know, I'm not, right? And so I've taken like art classes online that Northwest artists in BC, British Columbia have offered free. I've exercised a different muscle, and, you know, I have done a lot of things like refresh them. I blew air back into some old wisdom that I had. And I have 3 very rambunctious res dogs that remind me to stay in the moment. And so I think during this time, that's one of the things that I have constantly reminded myself, and to minimize the static. It's like a polyester blouse that's too staticky. You maybe couldn't afford dryer sheets or whatever, and you say how much static you want in your life at any given moment. But I'm encouraged by the mobilization I see, because that's how we have to move forward. You know, we can't silo it. And I know some Indigenous people, the box was a shape for them, but for my people, a lot of the distinguishing the circle, when we think of the circle, is it can encompass so much more. It can get big, it can get little. And the first circle is yourself, because when you're given life, you're set on a path, and you're the first hoop. You know, for my people, from my paradigm speaking, that I was given a hoop of life. And as I move around that, I want to mend the parts. I want to mend the parts where there was injury. And, you know, I also enjoy the social media, because I have seen more Indigenous faces than I've seen my entire childhood. So any Indian face is a good face, you know. So that's my little short spiel right now.
Thank you, Lori. And so then let's think about this, the 4 of us together. A lot of you said breathing air into new wisdom. I sometimes I look at it as, you know, as Indigenous and as women, we are constantly aware of the rites of passages in our family. You know, whether the rites of passages are just to get our little cousin or our new baby an Indian name. You know, there's those rites of passage, but it's almost like, you know, this since January of this year, 2020, we're going through some kind of rite of passage, and what kind of wisdom are we gathering from that rite of passage? You know, I was just sitting, just to start us off, I go for walks in the morning, and I was asking myself, and you know, Lori, you're talking about that first circle, and Anita, you were talking about, your life, and Patricia, around the wisdom that we gather. So I asked myself, this is what I asked myself, what have I learned? What have I learned? I mean, like, what do I cherish? What kind of wisdom? And one of the pieces of wisdom is just to listen and sit still. So I sat on the edge. I sat on the edge of the lake, and there was these two geese that just had their little babies, and they were swimming. They were teaching them how to swim, but they were protecting them. So my wisdom that I was gathering, my rite of passage is that I'm better when I listen. That's why I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And so these times of silence where I'm really checking in with myself, laying on the ground, that gives me calmness. And so I'll just say that much about myself. Let's Patricia, tell us about some of your transformation and your rites of passage as an Indigenous woman. Can you share that with us?
Yes, I can. And what I'm going to do is talk about what happened to me most recently in the pandemic. My home is in Tacoma. It was in Toppenish on the Yakima Res. Then it was in Yakima, the big city of the county. And then it was Seattle. And Tacoma I chose because my adult kids and all my grandkids and soon to be 2 great-grandchildren live in that area. And well, one of them lives here in Seattle. The firstborn grandson lives here in Seattle. So I chose that place for that reason, to be close and have that connection. It's really important. So with the pandemic, I decided to come to my older sisters to quarantine here. So instead of my mom, our 88-year-old mom, only having my older sister, she would have me too. And so, and then my nephew, my sister's son, who's 30, lives here also. So we have a multi-generational home right here. And in Tacoma at home, it's myself, my soon to be 27-year-old grandson, and his partner. And so I was okay for a little bit, but as the days went on and the weeks went on, I started having really bad nightmares that triggered me, and the work that I work in. And I mean, it made me physically sick. I ended up physically sick from the nightmares because my kids and I have gone through some really traumatic experiences. And then with the pandemic, I can't be with them. All the fears, and I've worked through this, right? I've worked through this, and I'm like, I'm good. We've talked, my kids have, they're such blessings, and they've all forgiven this 62-year-old woman and blessed me, and it's beautiful. But this stuff was coming up. I got to protect my kids. I didn't protect them. I got to protect them now. And it was horrendous. And I had to just go into it, right? I'm like, I thought I dealt with this already. Well, that spiral, here we go again, even deeper. And it was so painful. It was really painful. And the alone time, the time by the water, my sister lives 2 miles from the water. The sound, the smell of the water, it's really healing. As Lori started talking, I started rocking back and forth, and I'm like, oh, here I go. That's comforting, right? My babies, I'm gonna rock them. And so that's the most recent lesson. Self-forgiveness again. Talking to my kids, them saying, we're okay, Mom, you got to take care of yourself. Over 20 years ago, I was a kidney donor to my younger sister. They're like, you got 1 kidney, you're over 60. Please, take care of yourself. We're good. We're taking care of ourselves. I had a phone call with the therapist, and the therapist said, well, what about FaceTime? I'm like, no, I said, that's too painful. I can't FaceTime my babies. It's going to hurt me more. And so then I'm like, okay. And I tried it with my daughter, Nicole, and her little guys and her fiance and her 20-year-old daughter. And I lived through it. And it's still, it's like, oh, I wish I was there with you guys. And so that's the most recent one. Being connected and talking to my family, my blood family, my chosen family. I have very, very good sisters that really help me up when I'm feeling down and tell me, you know, you're a gift to the world. We need you when I'm feeling small, right? It happens. And so that's really important to have people that are truth tellers when you're in your pain going, you know, I really messed up. And they're like, you know, telling me the truth, being the mirror, being what creator made them to be for me. So when I was honored to be a guest on this, I let my daughters know, I let my granddaughter-in-law know. I'm just, you know, and I just thought after I sent them the text, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. But that came with a lot of, as they said yesterday, dirt work. The two power hours that were before us on Monday and Tuesday. If you don't have a chance, if you didn't have a chance to be on, go back and check them out. Amazing. Thank you, Theda.
Thank you, Patricia.
Mhm.
Anita, when I first met Anita, she was up in Lethbridge and she was just badass researching all the missing and murdered Indigenous women for 4 years in Canada and in the United States. And we were going to have Chinese food. And we chose a place that just happened to have all of our traditional people honoring Peter Wieselmunkus. And, they were giving him an honorary PhD. And anyway, she got to see, I got to meet Anita. I have so much respect for you as a young woman. It's so hard to know that the work that you're doing. So Anita, what's the wisdom? What's the transformation? What kind of rites of passage? What are you thinking? How are you moving through this with all the women you work with? And then for yourself as a woman and the women in your family, please share with us.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I think for me, like I was telling my friend the other day, when you have like food poisoning or the stomach flu and you're in kind of the worst of it and you're crying on the bathroom floor, just like, Creator, please let this be over. I don't want to throw up anymore. Like that's kind of how this time feels like. Just kind of, with the pandemic and all of the inequality and the violence that's happening right now. For me, like I just feel, because when you throw up, you're losing control over your body, right? And at the same time, I feel like I've lost so much control over just even my own life personally. I was supposed to move to Arizona. I was supposed to be in PhD coursework this fall, and now we have a pandemic, and Tucson is on fire from riots. And so for me, kind of the first teaching that I got from this experience was how to surrender to the process, and to let go and just say, okay, like the world is going to throw up until it's done. I'm going to throw up until I'm done, and we're all going to survive and come out of the other side of it. And to be okay with that, especially because I'm Cheyenne, Italian, and a Taurus, so I'm like the trifecta of stubborn. And it's really hard for me to like let go of anything ever. Once I've decided that I'm gonna go do a thing or that I want something to happen in that way, it really, and as a survivor of trafficking, it really is. It really bothers me when I don't have control over a situation. And this whole experience has just kind of humbled me and forced me to let go and surrender and accept that I don't have control right now. The only thing I can control is how I take care of myself and how I take care of my family and my community. I think the other big thing is just learning to be unapologetic about or unashamed about anything that that helps me feel good and healthy and happy, and learning to prioritize things a little bit better. You know, even 6 months ago, I was trying to implement a rule of like, don't work past midnight. And now I think of that and like, wow, that's sad that like most nights I was working past midnight because I just couldn't let go. And now during this time, it's kind of, again, humbled me to say like, okay, you need to take care of yourself. So we're like, even things like I upgraded my bed, I go for a walk every day. My favorite, and this is going to sound so silly, I've never shared this publicly before, but my favorite self-care activity is drive-by offerings. I blast my favorite happy music. Sometimes it's like Britney Spears or Nicki Minaj. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but whatever makes you feel happy. I blast it. I roll all the windows in my car down and I go to a place that feels good. And I just like have tobacco in my hand and I just like let it go to the wind. And I just, you know, drive around and do that. And it makes me feel good. I don't know that there's any science behind it other than that I'm just doing something that feels good. But I've started prioritizing things like that a little bit more. And we've been trying to encourage the women that we work with and the families we work with to do the same. This is a really hard time for people who have been through violence and have already experienced a loss of control over their life or a violation of their boundaries. It's a hard time for people who have been impacted by police violence or racism. So all of us are just really tender. And one of the things I wanted to share is, I have it right here. There's so many things that I know how to make or know how to do that I just never make time for. And we've started doing virtual art therapy workshops for survivors and MMIW families. And I've been teaching how to make these hoops, and it's just wrap. It's not like anything fancy. You can do them in an hour, but it's been really fun to get to play around with fun colors and to get to teach a new skill to other people, and even just to have a space where all of us can just kind of gather and check in with each other. And we found that having online support groups, even though lots of people wanted it, everyone was super shy to join. So when we reframed it as something like, okay, we're gonna sit and make earrings together, then we had 100 people who wanted to do it. And we've had these amazing healing conversations come out of it. So I think, that's the other big thing that I've learned, is just to be kind with yourself, be gentle with yourself, do the same for others, but also be mindful about creating pathways for other people to join in your healing with you, and creating pathways that make it easy for them or comfortable for them to join, which may be something like making earrings.
I just love it. And I love that you were holding it up with all those colors. So Lori, what do you think? What I'm hearing is, we're in this transformation, we're learning what brings us joy. We're learning a different way of healing. We're learning a different way of connecting. What do you think about that, Lori?
I thought about a teaching this morning for one of my teachers that's in the spirit world, and I was thinking, like I had known when he passed, but nobody communicated that to me, because that was our connection. And one of the things he said is that, because a lot of people were feeling they didn't know enough because of, how much has not been spoken about. And he helped me see it in a different way. Like he said, if you need help, you can go out into the bush, or you can go out into the natural world and ask for help. Put your offering down and ask for help, because all those medicines, they know their role. they haven't been, the teachings haven't been interrupted. And that's like a basic, not basic, but it's like the first, if you want to say the first footstep that I learned was that to reestablish relationship with the natural world again. Like our ancestors, that's part of our culture. That's why we're given like a lot of the medicines, like the pistacan, the sema, the chinchasha, all of the tobacco names that the family of tobacco goes under, is we reestablish, we repatriate to the land. That was, you know, a teaching from another elder that I received. And so today I was thinking about that in the pandemic, there is, our focus is like really human. But the rest, the world knows what it's doing. The earth knows what it's doing. The wind knows what it's doing. And they're carriers of medicine also. And so maybe, you know, me, I've been on a data diet because of where I live in rural Montana. The streaming is, it's not equal to, you know, people that are in the cities. And so however you connect to the whole universe, to the moon, we're coming up on a full moon. If you've never stood outside your door in the air and looked up at the moon, you can do it. You know, is reconnecting and reestablishing those relationships. And for me right now, I was like, oh, okay, I might start like video stuttering because the wind just kicked up. Oh, as soon as the wind just kicked up. And for me, what it does is it vibrates the roof and it hits one corner of the building. That's how strong the wind is coming off the mountains. So that's what I've been thinking about is, you know, there is connection and human connection, you know, flesh to flesh, you know, through the technology. But there is also, we have an opportunity now to reestablish and honor those original relationships that we have with the earth, with the galaxies, with all the energies that are floating around us, the songs that are waiting to be sung, the stories, and the spiritual beings that in many cultures are our helpers. So you have an opportunity now. But also I have had brain fatigue from being on too many computer interactions. You know, one time, one of my friends said he reminded the way I thought or my thinking, he said, was like a herd of wild horses. So they get fatigued when they're contained. So that's what I've also been mindful of, and to really enjoy, you know, the here and now and be in the moment, but also to understand that injuries that people were healing with or dealing with before, those have been brought into this time. And then we add on top like a flare up. It's like, you know, like a big pimple breaking out on a date night, you know, the stuff that's happening with the systemic racism. And for me, what I tell myself is when I look at the best practices in colonial imperialist occupation that came to my people, racism is one of them. And the solution, I mean, you know, the NWI slogan is, you know, the solution to trauma is healing. And it's also healing, honoring yourself that during this time, you still have that right to individually address those healing, whatever they are, healing issues. But I did think about, you know, where, you know, several times I've heard it in different versions about, you know, reestablish those relationships with the offering. So that's what the drive-by offering, that's what when Anita was speaking reminded me of that. I used to be a primary collector, if you want to say, of medicines, and I used to transport them across different borders. And I used to put out tobacco all the time. And when we were driving down, thank you for getting us, whatever. And somebody asked me when I came home to the reservation, what do you think is going to happen by putting on all that tobacco? And I said, something good. Because that's the teaching. You through relationship, you move forward through relationship, through making a wish, whatever your wish is. I wonder what the children's wishes are today all over. What do they wish for the world to be? And I think those voices are being heard, even if they don't have a Zoom account or they don't have a cell phone with unlimited data. Those voices are being heard. And so I was thinking, that is one of the things that I enjoy about this time, is when I feel like that, I could stop and I can go out. And that I'm really grateful for, to be reminded during this power hour with the force of the wind, moving the abode that I'm in right now. So,
So thank you, Lori. So in our remaining time, and I know you're both witty thinkers, and in a 2 or 3 minute nutshell, we've got this whole audience out there looking for wellness and looking at moving through to to December, to next year, to next month. What would you share with our audience that's working for you, or that you just wish that you could zap it out there and give it to our audience? Lori, if we could give everyone their own tobacco, if we could give them their plants. I've been burning, I have abundance of sweet pine, so I just burn smudges all day. So who would like to start first? What kind of stuff do you want to share with our audience out there who's viewing this about wellness during the pandemic, or during this healing of racial transformation? Who would like to start?
I'll go ahead and start, Theda.
Okay.
Thank you. So I would say what I want to share with everybody out there who is watching now and who will be watching in the future, that you deserve wellness. You deserve healing. Don't look at it. Look at it. Whatever that wound is, look at it and dive deep into it. Because the creator of all things is right there. And that's what creator of all things wants for you. We deserve that. Each of us deserve that. And it's a process, right? Right now, we're breathing, we're alive, and until our last breath. It's a process. It's a process. Be gentle with yourself. It takes practice. I know, I've been there. Look at that. Look at that most painful thing that's you've been pushing, and metabolize it. Get it out. You deserve a beautiful, beautiful, blessed life. And it's right there through the chaos and the pain. It's right there on the other side waiting for you.
Thank you, Patricia. Anita, what are you thinking?
Well, I just want to offer some resources, because I know that a healing process is intimidating for people to do alone. And I just wanted to share that SBI, we're here for you in that journey. Me personally, I'm here for you in that journey. We are doing virtual art therapy sessions. We're going to keep doing that. We have a call line. So if you're in a dark place, or you just want somebody to talk to, we're here. That phone number is 707-335-6263. You can call, you can text, and we're here for you. We've also got virtual support groups we're doing every Thursday. We have one for Indigenous survivors, one for families of missing and murdered people. And we also just have a general drop-in craft circle if you just want someone to talk to, and that's on Mondays. So we have something like every day of the week, opportunities to jump in and heal with other people. And they're scheduled for after NWI's Power Hour. So every day you could watch NWI's Power Hour and then join SBI for some group healing. So those opportunities are there, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anita. Lori, what's your closing thoughts before we start to wind down here?
Well, I know Jolene is got, or NWI is going to put them in the comments, but also to, I think one of the flowers that I see bloom in this time as a collective response is the people that are sponsoring this Power Hour, the Indian Collective. And she'll put the links and stuff. And, human connection will get us through it. And we just ask the universe for help, and we will be heard. And I really, every day, I didn't bring my other end of life stainless steel, low green impact carbon, lessening my footprint cup, but it was only 12 ounces. So during the pandemic, I had to move to a big mason jar full of water because I found I need more water. And then I made my own mix to help myself of organic ginger root. And then I fill one of these and I put in apple cider vinegar. So, and then I drink water from this because I found during this time, I needed more water than that 12-ounce cup, and so, and I just think I had a call that was reassuring to me with another one of my colleagues. And at the end, we both took a drink and we go, you have a mason jar too. So we made a toast to our wellness on this journey during this time. So I would just say that's, I wish you well. And if nobody told you today, I love you. And my prayer is for all your dreams to come true.
Thank you, Lori. And I want to thank all three of you. And just a reminder, we're coming up, every solstice, every equinox, every full moon, every universe time, create the rituals, renew the rituals, the stuff that bring you joy. I'll just, even like with our hair, taking care of our hair, because this is our ancestors. We were taught to only trim on the full moon, because it's a ceremony, or we cut our hair when we're in mourning. So, there's over 100,000 of us, at least in the United States, have crossed over. And some are saying, but 100,000 babies were being born. That we have this cycle. So we're really we're just reaching out to you. This was a women's panel, and as you can see, we've got some incredible women here that work hard, that have worked hard, and we're working hard on just bringing a woman's heart, bringing our mind, body, and our spirit and our heart to you, to ask you just to connect, to forgive, to reevaluate, to not judge, and to bring everyone into your heart, and to say these prayers, and to, for those who have courageously stepped out there and aren't doing too well, say the prayers for them. And so we want to thank you for being with us this past hour. This was our women's panel, and we hope that the words that we've shared with you, the insight, our stories, and of course, we're you can share this Power Hour. And tomorrow we just want to get ready, because one of the things Will and Jelena will be cooking tomorrow, because I think what part of the transformation is we've learned to eat better, or we're learning to cook, or so come join us tomorrow, because we're going to have a cooking show, and how precious, because food is medicine. But we want to thank all of you for being with us this hour. We're available on YouTube, on our website, Native Wellness Institute. So thank you, Anita. Thank you, Patricia. And thank you, Lori, for being with us today. So we're going to say kita kito matsuno, and send out kisses, send out cyber hugs, and just tell you that we love you all and thank you for listening to us.